Now, our U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi testified before the House Judiciary Committee this week, and you may have watched video clips of Democrat House members screaming at Pam Bondi nonstop. Now, apparently the House Democrats don't give a flying flip how they're perceived by voters. Now, the AG was there to give testimony, but the House Democrats screamed for several minutes at a time, then asked a yes or no question, at which point the AG would say, well, and the Democrat would just cut her off and begin screaming again. Now, many of the congressional hearings are shouting matches, but this hearing discussed the Epstein files. Now, some other topics were discussed as well, but the Epstein files were just released, so the House Democrats were grandstanding for the cameras and using the victim's pain as a platform to attack President Trump. Several victims of Epstein attended the hearing, although it seems not all of them are bona fide victims. We'll find out later. During the hearing, several House Democrats even stated on camera that AG Bondi had refused to acknowledge the victims, which is blatantly false. Now here's Pam Bondi acknowledging the victims in her opening statement.
More than 500 attorneys and reviewers spent thousands of hours painstakingly reviewing millions of pages to comply with Congress's law. We've released more than 3 million pages, including 180,000 images, all to the public, while doing our very best in the time frame allotted by the legislation to protect victims. And if you brought us a victim's name that was inadvertently released, we immediately redacted it. I want to take a moment to acknowledge the Epstein survivors who are here today. I'm a career prosecutor, and despite what the ranking member said, I have spent my entire career fighting for victims, and I will continue to do so. I am deeply sorry for what any victim has been through, especially as a result of that monster.
Boom, she acknowledged the survivors here today. And AG Bondi mentioned she's a career prosecutor. Now, not everyone is aware, but the job of a prosecutor is to advocate for victims. Literally, her job is to speak for victims and to protect society. Now, the job of a criminal defense attorney, in contrast, for example, Jasmine Crockett was a public defender and criminal defense attorney before she was elected to Congress. Now, in fairness, she's also a civil rights attorney, but in her job as a criminal defense lawyer, her job is to advocate for criminal defendants even if they're guilty. Now, here's video of Jasmine Crockett speaking for a bit, then she begins screaming when confronted with an uncomfortable truth about the Epstein files.
Now, I'm not saying that the president is a pedophile, but there is a lot of evidence in these files that suggests that he's very close friends with a lot of men who are pedophiles. What's crazy about all of this is just that this is a big cover-up, and this administration is engaged in it. In fact, this administration is complicit.
Thank you, Congressman. Thank you, my friend, for many years. I find it interesting that she didn't even want to try, Congresswoman Crockett, to ask any questions, because she certainly did not condemn her leader, Hakeem Jeffries, for taking money from Jeffrey Epstein after Epstein was convicted. And I will be brief to give you your time, Congressman. This is what she didn't want to talk about. Texas, from Cuba, convicted, homicide, arson, weapon offense.
Convicted. So what we talking about? Convict some of these perpetrators that rape these women that are sitting behind you, that you refuse to even acknowledge they are here.
Texas, convicted of homicide. Cecil Joseph from Dominican Republic. Texas, convicted for kidnapping, rape. Khalid Khan from Afghanistan. That's why they want to talk about Epstein and not what's happening in their own states.
Now, we just heard in that clip, Jasmine Crockett literally screaming. Why? It's because she has the power, and taxpayers are paying for that. And Hakeem Jeffries took a donation from Epstein, we just heard. But Crockett had no complaints about that. Now, she represents Texas and had no complaints about criminal, illegal aliens in her state, rapists in her state. Now, the AG was pointing out that the selective rage from Jasmine Crockett is concerning. Now, she's not running for re-election to the House this year. She's running for Senate, but a Republican probably will win that seat in the general election. So this could be Crockett's last year in the Congress. But I do hope she defeats her primary opponent, James Tallarico, who seems rather shifty. Now, the DOJ has had the Epstein files since Obama was president. Obama's DOJ didn't release the Epstein files. Now, even during the entirety of Joe Biden's term in office, his DOJ didn't release the Epstein files. Now, here's the AG.
American people need to know this. They are talking about Epstein today. This has been around since the Obama administration. This administration released over 3 million pages of documents, over 3 million. And Donald Trump signed that law to release all of those documents.
Thank you, Attorney General Bondi. I agree with you totally. I think you've done a fine job. I think that Democrats, in fact, should be apologizing to the Epstein victims for doing nothing during the 4 years that they were running the government. We did not hear about this, and it took you and President Trump to finally provide transparency and give answers to the American people, and I want to thank you for that. I want to apologize on behalf of my colleagues on the left. They're not all that bad, but they've got to put on a show.
Now, in AG Bondi's opening statement, she apologized that some of the victims' personal information wasn't redacted. She said it was inadvertent, and if a mistake is brought to their attention, they'll immediately redact the information. So she explained that at the outset. But I guess Thomas Massie didn't hear that part, because here he is presenting a page from the Epstein files that wasn't redacted properly. Now, here's that clip.
To my right is an email that was sent by the victims' lawyers to the DOJ. It was a list of names not to redact, a list of names not to release. What did the DOJ do with this email? They released this email in the document production. Literally the worst thing you could do to the survivors, you did. And they're getting phone calls. A lot of these people didn't want to be known. And we know you touched the document because you redacted one name. And you redacted the lawyer's name, but you left the survivor's name there.
Okay, that error, if I had to guess, happened because of the time crunch. Now, DOJ had more than 500 people going through the files, and folks might assume it's easy to redact names. Just type them into the database and they'll get redacted. No, not in all cases. Now, many of the documents were paper documents, according to DOJ, so they had to be scanned in and OCR'd, optical character recognition, which doesn't always work, so mistakes were made. Now, a couple of nude photos of victims were inadvertently released as well. Now, if I had to guess, those photos were never even looked at by a reviewer before being released. Software or some type of AI probably was used to do a first pass through all of the documents, and those photos didn't get flagged because of how they were scanned in. Now, about 3 months ago, the Congress was screaming at the DOJ to release all the files. Let's recall that. Redact this, but not that. Reveal this, but not that. They were given lots of parameters, and mistakes were inevitable, in my view, especially given the time crunch. Now, Jerry Nadler asks if indictments are pending against anyone in the Epstein files. Now, the AG tries to answer, but Nadler cuts her off. Let's watch.
We now have concrete evidence of disgusting criminality revealed in the Epstein files. So I really have just one question for you. How many of Epstein's co-conspirators have you indicted? How many perpetrators are you even investigating?
First, you showed it. I find it.
How many have you indicted?
Excuse me. I'm going to answer the question.
Answer my question.
No, I'm going to answer the question the way I want to answer the question.
No,
Your
you're going to answer the
theatrics are
question the
ridiculous.
way I asked it.
Chairman Jordan, I'm not going to get in the gutter with these people, but I'm going to answer the question.
How many have you indicted?
Again, the time belongs to
Reclaiming my time.
the time belongs.
I think it's very interesting.
Reclaiming my time. How many of Epstein's?
They don't like the answer, Chairman,
Reclaiming my time.
because it's honest.
Reclaiming
So
my-
he asked a
Reclaiming my
4-minute
time.
question.
Restore 45
and
seconds to
I am
Mr. Nadler,
going
please,
to
Mr. Chairman.
Answer.
You can let her filibuster all day long, but not on our watch. Not on our time. No way. And I told you about that, Attorney General, before you started.
You don't tell me.
Yeah, oh, I
anything,
did tell you because we saw what you did in the Senate.
Lawyer, not even a lawyer.
Committee will be in.
Now, Nadler didn't allow the AG to answer, although that's why the AG was called to testify, to answer questions. So that video clip gave the impression that the DOJ was refusing to indict anyone in the Epstein files, but that's only because of Nadler's behavior. He made the video clip seem that the DOJ isn't doing anything against the Epstein co-conspirators or co-defendants. But then Republican Chip Roy asks about the indictments. Now, let's watch that.
A couple other quick questions on another important topic that has been raised by colleagues on both sides of the aisle with respect to the Epstein case. A few questions. One, Jeffrey Epstein was charged in July 2019 for sex trafficking under the Trump administration in his first term. Is that correct?
Yes, Congressman.
And that Ghislaine Maxwell was charged in 2020 also under the Trump administration, correct?
Yes, Congressman.
So it is safe to say that the administration led on that issue and that there was silence in the previous administration. Is that correct?
Yes, Congressman. Almost complete silence from everyone who's been trying to still talk about Epstein. They didn't say a word under the Biden administration. Nothing.
Was that Ghislaine Maxwell was put in jail for trafficking minors. Rightly so, and you properly said here at this table, you hope she dies in jail. Well, I want to know, will anyone besides her or Epstein, which I congratulate President Trump's previous administration and this Department of Justice for continuing all of that, but that they were indicted, but will anyone else be indicted and prosecuted under this, given the information that's in front of us?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking that. And they never wanted to hear the answer to that. We have pending investigations in our office.
So, investigations are pending, but we'd never know that from watching, for example, this next clip of Becca Balint.
Chris Malin.
Was the president aware? Please stop talking. It is not your time to ask questions. It is not your time. I'm reclaiming my time, Mr. Chair.
Time belongs to the gentlelady from Vermont.
Was the president aware of Secretary Lutnick's ties to Epstein when he chose him to lead the Department of Commerce? Was he aware?
Chris Malin was a Border Patrol agent.
Okay, so I'm going to conclude that the president, in fact, did know about his ties because he was the next door neighbor.
Shame on you.
Oh, for goodness sakes. This is pathetic. This is pathetic, Mr. Chair. I am not asking trick questions here. The American people have a right to know the answers to this. These are senior officials in the Trump administration. This is not a game, Secretary.
I'm Attorney General.
My apologies, I couldn't tell.
Screaming at the top of her lungs, she insulted the AG as well. Now, with that type of behavior, of course, she couldn't get answers from the AG for the American people. Now, she had asked Pam Bondi if the DOJ had questioned senior Trump officials about their ties to Epstein. Howard Lutnick, Secretary of Commerce, John Phelan, Secretary of the Navy, and Deputy Secretary of War Stephen Feinberg. Now, I wanted to know the answers to those questions myself, but Democrat House members don't seem to want the answers. Now, if they did, they wouldn't talk the entire time and cut off the AG whenever she tries to get a word in edgewise. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, leave a like and don't forget to subscribe.